The cloud is.
Yeah, it's up. Thank you, Jesse.
Hi, everyone. Happy Women in Water Diplomacy Day.
Hey, Bisan, very good.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Wonderful. Happy Women in Water Diplomacy Day indeed. Does everyone see my slides okay? Yeah. Great.
Yes.
So I think we're gonna get started now. Really welcome to you all for joining us today to mark the third International Celebration of Women in Diplomacy Day. We have been celebrating this day as a community for 3 years now, and it's really become an important pillar for all of us to kind of check in across our community. I want to share a few logistical notes on this session before we get started, and then I'll be handing the floor over to Bogadi to start us off properly. A few logistical notes. The session is being recorded and it will be made available as part of this session's after action report. You'll also see that the AI transcription inside Zoom is enabled, and that's going to be used for the after action report potentially. And only in a way that's aligned with the network's new policy for the use of generative AI in network engagements. And if you're interested in that, please have a look in the public resource folder there where you can read that policy in detail. We'll also be taking a group picture, a screenshot. We're going to do it a little earlier than it was written in the agenda originally, just because we know people like to be included and sometimes have to go after the 1 hour. Please use the chat to introduce yourself and share comments. Let us know where you're joining from. And of course, throughout our discussion today and every other Women in Water Diplomacy Network convened event, we'll be following our code of conduct for convened events, which is, the baseline is be kind, considerate, respectful to each other. If you'd like to read the details of the code of conduct, please also have a look. It's in the linked public resource folder on the slide. So those are my logistical announcements. It's now my pleasure to hand the floor over to one of the amazing Women in Water Diplomacy Network Global Leadership Council members, and that's one of many hats Bogadi brings to our community. And Bogadi, I'm not going to do a lengthy introduction. You have too many roles. Bogadi has broken many barriers for women in water management, water diplomacy across Southern Africa and beyond. I really encourage you all to read the details of her and all the speakers' profiles included in the agenda. Bogadi, I'm going to put the slide deck down so that we can see each other a little bit better during your welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for those brilliant words about me. I think at this time, let me just say good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever we are. Distinguished guests, my colleagues and partners in this progress. I take note of all the council members who might be present here, the distinguished members of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, the support team that we have, and all the potential cooperating partners that have actually connected to this platform today. I specifically welcome the new members who have recently joined this amazing network. It is my profound honor, really, to do the opening remarks today as we celebrate the third anniversary of Women in Water Diplomacy Day, a milestone that actually reflects not only the passing of time, but the deepening impact of women's voices in shaping the future of water diplomacy across our region and beyond. 3 years might seem to be a long time, but this day was established actually to recognize and elevate the critical role that women play in negotiating peace, managing water resources and sanitation included, and building resilience in communities that are most affected by climate and water insecurity. Today, as we celebrate this day, we celebrate it not just the idea, but the reality of women leading, influencing, and transforming how we collaborate across borders and sectors. All this being done in partnership, obviously, with our male champions. I'm proud to say in Botswana as we speak, and in Southern Africa, and probably across some of the continent, we are seeing more women stepping into strategic leadership roles, assenting only not technical knowledge, but also emotional intelligence, conflict resolution skills, and long-term vision. These qualities are no longer desirable. They are essential to meaningful diplomacy, and that we should always remember. And while challenges remain, obviously, limited funding, structural barriers, and unequal representation, we are not discouraged. As my colleague so powerfully said, Maria from Namibia, what we may lack in funding, we more than make up for in knowledge, experience, and collective power. And that's what makes us proud to be part of this network. It is that power, shared and amplified, that continues to move this network really forward. Today, as we elaborate and make our comments, I urge each one of us to keep building. Let's mentor, let's reach out, let's show up. Any opportunity that comes, we need to take that opportunity. Let's make this network not just inclusive in name, but inclusive in practice. One where women from all walks of life feel seen, heard, and valued. To the women who have been pioneers in this journey, and to the young leaders rising behind them, we see you, we celebrate you, and we walk with you. And now to just make my opening remarks short, I want to close with a quote that reminds all of us why this network matters. I quote, "When women lead in water diplomacy, they do not just resolve conflict, they create possibility. Let us walk out there and be more participatory." I close the quote. And with these few opening remarks, I hope and sincerely wish all the deliberations that we are going to be doing today in this critical day would be most welcomed by all. With those, I think, Elizabeth, I close my opening remarks and hope that it will open up a lot of interactions amongst us as women and our male champions present here. I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bogadi. Wow, that was excellent. You brought a tear to my eye, dearest. I did, there was a couple, I think there's a couple people that have their sound on. I'll just ask you, please to try to keep your mics muted. I know you're coming in on devices on your ways. I'm putting the slides up and just, I'd like to share a few key announcements for you all, especially for those who may be joining this event, the first event you're joining, a Women in Water Diplomacy event. So just a few notes from me. For those of you that are just now getting to know the network, this is a community of formal and informal water diplomats from really all over the world now. Our community was initiated in 2017 in the Nile Basin and had its own journey and development within the Nile Basin. In 2021, our first sister network was developed in Central Asia and Afghanistan. And you'll see, I see many members on today's call from those basins. In 2022, we launched our global strategy at the Stockholm World Water Week in Sweden. We held our first global network forum that year, and the global strategy was really an invitation to many other basins and regions around the world to join us in the shared endeavor to elevate women water diplomats, inclusive decision-making, and gender equality across transboundary water cooperation. And many communities answered the call. Commissioner Bogadi, with our welcome remarks, was there in 2022 during our global strategy and elevating the importance of this issue in the Orange St. Coup Basin, and other basin communities joined us right out of the gate with our global strategy launch too. Today, those developing communities in Southern Africa, the South Caucasus launched just last year, and our developing community across North America. Other communities have also started seeding the options and opportunities to bring women together and shape what might be future directions in other regions. So we really welcome everyone to this community here today. The tie that binds all of us together across our growing partners and community is our global strategy. I'm sure my colleague Jessie is sharing a link in the chat. It's really an important resource for new network community members to get to know. And the strategy focuses our efforts around 5 pillars of engagement: networking and empowerment activities. That also includes our focused activities on youth and the engagement of male champions of gender equality in our engagements broadly. The second peer is focused on peer-to-peer learning opportunities. If you are following our LinkedIn page, you'll see announcements for quarterly online experience exchange events that are on topics of contemporary water diplomacy challenges that are being discussed. And we have some great sessions coming up later this year. Research cooperation is another pillar of our strategy. We're firm believers that women's voices as scientists and knowledge holders need to share that knowledge and collaborate together. And there's so much interesting research that needs to be done to help us bring light to these issues. And the fourth pillar is on collective engagement, and that many of you may have seen the network engaging as a group at the UN Water Conference 2023, at World Water Week, and other key international water policy events like Cairo Water Week, Africa Water Week, and so on. So those are important opportunities for us to come together as a community. And the fifth pillar there is about process support, enabling our community through strategic analysis, monitoring, and evaluation, and often a place where key partners can play a very important role. Finally, just a glimpse at what our community looks like today. The graph on the left shows you the growth of the number of individuals who have joined our activities over the years. And of course, we started in one basin with one focused community, and it was a smaller group, an intimate group. And as we grew in the regional basins that we have engaged with, our community has grown, and that's presented additional challenges and many opportunities to us. About 230 people have met our standard that we introduced for membership last year. The standard is a simple way for us to keep a measurement of the way network members are actively engaged with our community. Who is a network member? We really believe that network members are those who are consistently demonstrating their engagement with our community, their support for our mission. And we measure that by engagement recurrence in part. So if someone has joined 3 or more network engagements, including one in-person event in any basin, they can become a member, and there are a certain other opportunities that enables. Our online community is also really engaged and collaborative. And I encourage you all to follow our LinkedIn page as our primary online place for any event or opportunity that we might be sharing. Okay, last slide from me, if it will work with me. Why? Okay. Are the plethora of opportunities that are currently available to all of you to get involved with. You don't have to be a network member to start your engagement. Any of these opportunities are ways for our community to come together. So there's an open consultation period going on right now on our new network handbook that it ends on June 25th, but you are all welcome to read our new handbook, which is full of the way we intend to operate as a community. We'll have 2 upcoming in-person meetups taking place in New York on July 8th and in Johannesburg on July 24th. The registrations are down below. The New York in-person meetup is the kind of light blue, and the Johannesburg meetup registration is the dark green there. We'll have a really great event during World Water Week in Stockholm, Sweden on the Tuesday, August 26th of World Water Week in partnership with the Stronger Together Coalition. The Stronger Together Coalition includes 6 women-led water networks, all working collaboratively on some shared engagements. And the meetups that we do on the side of World Water Week, for example, with Stronger Together are really fun and a great way to come together as a community. Women in Water Diplomacy Network is a founding member of that coalition alongside the 5 other women-led water networks. Really exciting opportunity in the pipeline as well are the working groups. We've now established working groups to focus on those different pillar issues, as well as to focus around different geographical dialogues. These working groups, we're very much hoping, are going to be developed into real pillars of our community. I would love to see each and every one of you register your interest in a working group. And we plan on launching those in September with some really interesting interactive workshops across the month of September. So please register your interest as soon as you can. We're also working really, as many of you on this call are also, we're really looking, we've got our eyes set on the UN Water Conference 2026 and the entire preparatory path towards the conference, which will take place in December in the United Arab Emirates. The network is really focused on being able to convene our 3rd Global Network Forum in advance of the UN Water Conference 2023, but we'll need a lot of partners and a lot of you to, let us know how you would like to engage. Finally, for network members, you can always update your profile in that we keep in our collected profiles of network members document. That document's available on the public resource folder, and anybody can update your profile at any time. I really encourage you all to keep doing that because a lot of people use this collected bios document in order to identify experts across transboundary water cooperation issues. All right, I'm done. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, everyone. And I really hope to that you all will take advantage of some of these new engagement opportunities that we have. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Karen Fueg. She is a senior Women, Peace, and Security advisor for the South Caucasus for the UN Women Office in Georgia. Karen has an amazing career putting great focus on women, peace, and security across different regions of the world. Again, I'm really bad at doing bio recitation. I really encourage you all to read Karen's extensive knowledge. It's in the program, her full bio. Karen came to our community rather recently. Inspired in part by the very first steps the network took in the South Caucasus regional branch development process. She, her way of understanding our work, she got it right away. As our community grows, we need to strengthen understanding. We have such diverse knowledge sources. We have hydrologists, we have political scientists, we have botanists, we have many different voices across water diplomacy. One of our roots is the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. And we wouldn't be here, I think, if not for the many women that led the charge on developing this focused agenda. So it's my pleasure to introduce Karen, who will speak today on driving peace through inclusion. Karen, I'm going to, again, put the slide deck down so we can see you better.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for the flowers sent my way. Very, very privileged and happy to be here today. And so, dear colleagues, dear board members and members of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, it's a privilege to speak to you on the occasion of the Women in Diplomacy Day. Speaking with a virtual room filled with not only expertise, we have Herdis, hydrologists, diplomats, we have a bunch of different experts. So all of you experts with one purpose, and talking with a virtual room, not just of professionals, but also with peace builders. And I think you heard my field is women, peace, and security. So I feel today honored not just to talk with diplomats, but with change agents and transformers of systems. Today, on Women in Diplomacy Day 2025, we gather not simply to commemorate, but to mobilize. We are here to ignite a momentum for a new era of diplomacy, one where women's leadership in transboundary water cooperation is not an exception, but the engine of peace. Because let us be clear, or let me be clear, water is never just water, and you know that better than me. Like peace does not stop at borders. Water flows across communities, across cultures and counties, shaping livelihoods, sustaining ecosystems, and in times of crisis, becoming a source of both conflict, but also of cooperation. As climate impacts intensify and geopolitical tensions rise, water diplomacy is no longer just a technical issue, it's a peace and security imperative. The Women, Peace and Security Agenda was born from the recognition that peace is more durable if and when women are meaningfully involved. Yet 25 years since the adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution 25, and I think many of you are familiar with this resolution, we still face persistent barriers. Underrepresentation in peace process, gender-blind diplomacy, and the exclusion of women from decision-making forums, especially in sectors like water governance. Another milestone, the Dublin Statement on Water and Sustainable Development of 1992, and maybe some of you, the older generation like me might remember, did recognize the importance of women's meaningful participation in peace and security and water governance. But recognition without representation changes nothing. I want to give you a couple of global data collected by UN Women that show a lack of overall progress of women's full, equal, and meaningful participation or representation in the UN peace and security agenda. Preliminary data from the analysis of over 50 peace processes, which take place in some of your countries or have taken place in some of your countries, indicate that in 2023, the latest statistical data, on average, women made up only 9% of negotiators, 13% of mediators, and 26% of signatories to peace agreements and ceasefire agreements. In transboundary water governance, nearer today's topic or topic of today's panel, while women make 50% of the global population, their representation in transboundary water governance is often minimal. And we have that from a report I'd like to cite here, USCN, Women as Changemakers in Governance of Shared Waters, stated in 2018 that women remain underrepresented in cross-border river basin committees, even so they are key actors in local water use. So why do those statistical data matter? Women collect, and we all know that, women collect 250 million hours per water globally. They are the primary users at community level, yet are excluded from governance structures relied upon to allocate and manage those resources. Inclusion leads to better outcomes. In peace and security, to more durable, more inclusive peace. In transboundary water governance, to more resilient and sustainable water cooperation. So what does that say? Why does that matter? We need more women's representation in transboundary water governance. We need more targeted gender policies and more gender-sensitive budgeting. We need tracking sex-disaggregated data, especially for governance bodies and commissions. And we need experts, water diplomats like you in today's audience, to shift the norms, pilot best practices, and learn from each other in regional and global women-led networks in transboundary water cooperation. That's why today we are not only celebrating Women in Diplomacy, but your network, the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, your profession, your dedication, and your expertise. The truth is, women have always been here. As water users, women have facilitated dialogue in communities across borders. Women have monitored water quality and mediated local conflict, often as first responders. Women also have brought community knowledge, for instance, of ecosystems or community needs into basin planning and elevated diplomacy beyond formal treaties in what we call people-to-people diplomacy. But women have done that too often from the margins. That ends now, today. Today we bring the women, peace and security agenda into the very heart of water diplomacy. Because when we talk about meaningful participation, we mean women shaping the rules of engagement, not just implementing them. Women's local knowledge guiding basin strategies. Women-led initiatives receiving long-term financial investments, not token applause. The risks we face are enormous: climate extremes, water insecurity, and political instability. But the opportunity is even greater. We are not just here to respond to crises. We are redefining cooperation through inclusion, through trust building, and through leadership that puts equity and sustainability at the center. To conclude, I invite all of us, panelists, practitioners, diplomats, allies, to approach today not as a routine convening, but as a strategic intervention. Let us use the space to ask the hard questions. How do we integrate women, peace and security across transboundary water cooperation, from river commissions to national plans? How do we shift funding models to support women peace builders in water long term? How do we document, amplify, and learn from each other, especially from women working in fragile and conflict-affected settings? Let today be a declaration that we are not here to adapt to broken systems, but we are here to reshape them. We're here as water diplomats, yes, but also as movement builders, as connectors, as visionaries. And as we dive into this conversations today, let's do so with intention, with solidarity, and with the courage to lead differently. The current is with us. Let's keep it flowing together. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone. Wow, that was really inspiring, Karen. Really, we're all excited to have more interactions with our colleagues across UN Women and feminist organizations working on the ground in local communities. It's an important part of our work. We just had a bit of a news from one of our panelists, unfortunately won't be able to join. I'm going to introduce the facilitators of our panel discussion today. And while we unfortunately won't be able to hear from one of our panelists, that does mean that we really hope to have some significant time for discussion and dialogue with you all. So please, as we start into our discussion today, and already I'm sure you have thoughts and questions, please use the chat and we'll try to elevate some questions as time remains. I will just put up the slide one again. Great. So as we transition into the panel discussion, it's really my honor to introduce two dear members of the Women in Water Diplomacy's Global Leadership Council who will be facilitating this discussion. Ambika Vishwantha is the founder and director of the Kubernein Initiative based in India. She has recently joined our community and put her hand up to serve as part of the Global Leadership Council, and we are all very much enriched by it. She has extensive experience working in a variety of different regions and basin communities, and you know, I've always been really inspired by Ambika's work with regards to water diplomacy at local communities, a subject that we need more focus on across many regions. And Dr. Maria Gwen, also a more recent addition to our community coming from Paraguay. She is a lawyer, an international water lawyer, currently serving amongst many of her hats as one of the implementation committee members for the UN Water Convention. She's based out of Bonn right now, but brings a great network and community and understanding of Latin America water security challenges. And again, we're also enriched by new voices from different regions, being able to bring new experience and creative ways of looking at challenges. As part of this discussion today, we have Commissioner Adriana Resendez and Shala Ismaili joining us, and I'll allow our facilitators to introduce them, but I just want to pass on very last-minute apologies from both Amelia Flores, chairwoman of the Colorado River Indian Tribes, and Minister and Ambassador Nadia Gouffon. For Nadia, she had been trying very hard to connect and have internet this morning, and it just didn't work out. But Ambika and Maria, I'm really excited we can have a more intimate discussion also with Commissioner Resendez and Shala Ismaili, and to hear more from this great group of participants. So with that, I turn the floor over to you all, and I will also put the slide deck down.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Elizabeth, for the warm introduction. And welcome, everyone, to our special Women in Diplomacy Day, the panel discussion. Nothing about us without us. Today, we gather to celebrate the strategic leadership of women in water diplomacy and to reflect on what it truly means to bring the women, peace, and security agenda into water governance during these rapidly shifting geopolitical times. The critical role of women in water resources management and protection has been recognized and emphasized at the highest policy levels for more than 30 years. The Dublin Statement on Water and Sustainable Development of 1992 that we heard a little bit about was only the first of countless national, basin level, and international policy statements and guiding documents that stress the need for more gender-inclusive water governance processes at all levels. Yet, despite repeated high-level commitments to engaging women in water governance, evidence reveals a persistent gender gap in the water sector.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you everyone for being here for this really important discussion. And thank you to Elizabeth for her organization, not only of this discussion, but really everything in keeping this amazing network going for in so many ways. Always, Elizabeth, a very special thank you to you. We've heard so much about where we are now and how much further we need to go, but I'm really excited to co-facilitate this panel with Maria on ideas of how we can get where we need to be at all levels. We know that the transformative role of women in conflict prevention and peace building has been set out in the UN Security Council resolution of 1325 and subsequently the Women, Peace and Security resolutions and in the CEDAW Committee's general recommendations of 30 and 40. The critical role of women's leadership in peace and security and water governance has been repeatedly demonstrated through research. We've heard some about that. And the lived experience of women on the front lines of water insecurity in conflict-sensitive regions and basins. And so many of us over here have either been at that front line or experienced it in some way or the other, or I know in case of some members are still there. And so it's very much so incumbent upon all of us and the people and networks that we work with, I think, to really advocate for and then move forward in even the smallest of ways, because they make so much difference in going forward. And so then we know where there is meaningful participation of women in peace processes, there is a significant increase in the sustainability of those agreements reached and in holding those agreements. The likelihood of inclusion of gender-sensitive wording and critical issues affecting communities then increases, and the lack of it then is very detrimental going forward. So higher levels of gender equity is strongly associated with lower instances of conflict, and we've seen that again where there is this lack of gender inclusion, or there is in some cases a lack of water inclusion along with the gender inclusion in some of these conflict zones, then you see how that persists and insecurities then remain. We have seen these commitments shifting, And this event here hopefully seeks to elevate the importance of the foundations of knowledge and lived experiences of women water diplomats engaged in water cooperative solutions from around the world, and how we can learn from these lived experiences and bring them then to the areas that we are working in. And so I'm really once again excited to be a co-facilitator with Maria on bringing some of these learnings out there. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you. So together, all our panelists represent a breadth of regional and institutional experience, from technical negotiation on major transboundary rivers to feminist civil society, to indigenous governance and multilateral facilitation. So today we will explore how inclusive diplomacy can be a tool not just for cooperation, but for transformation. So let me go ahead and introduce our first panelist. She is Commissioner Adriana Reséndez Maldonado from Mexico. She is a civil engineer with a master's degree in hydraulic resources and has 23 years of experience in the Mexican section of the International Boundary and Water Commission. Commissioner Reséndez has performed functions to ensure compliance with the current treaties between Mexico and the United States regarding the distribution of waters of the international rivers, as well as the supervision of the operation and maintenance of the hydraulic projects built in Rio Grande and Colorado River, the operation and maintenance of the hydrometric system of the Mexican section of the International Boundary and Water Commission, and the accounting of water allocations of the Rio Grande and Colorado River. She has participated in the negotiations of the International Boundary and Water Commission, as well as in the coordination for the development of projects of great relevance in the border region. Commissioner Reséndez has been actively involved in the Women in Water Diplomacy Network since 2023. So thank you, Commissioner Reséndez, for being with us today, and let's get right into our discussions. You've spoken before about the technical basis of water cooperation, but in this area of stress and cross-border political tension, what do you see as the biggest threat to continued cooperation, and how can diplomacy evolve to address it?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for this invitation to this panel. I'm very happy to be here. I think perhaps the greatest threat arises is when a state adopts an inadequate nationalist policy and becomes wrapped up in its sovereignty. This behavior definitely impacts cooperation schemes between countries sharing water resources. The nationalism may be due to the need of local users to protect their interests without considering aspects to go beyond the border. Climate change does not affect only an area delimited by humans. For example, a watershed does not suffer drought only up to the border. It experiences on both sides sharing because the basin sharing the same ecosystem, the same scarcity, the same precipitation, and whatever seems everything. Nature knows no borders. The transboundary problems are shared. And climate change is a relatively new phenomenon that has reduced water availability worldwide, leading not only the water stress, but also the political tensions. The water stress addresses by a comprehensive framework considering all aspects of the problems. These include climatological, geographical aspects, existing or necessary infrastructure, the coordinate operation of infrastructure, the cost of its operation and maintenance, water quality, environmental aspects, and social issues, among others. And I want to share a slide. Okay. A problem must always be solved in a fair and equitable manner with the goal of achieving sustainable maximum. Parity is something very important for cooperation. It is like the key issue. Transparency and trust are required for a successful cooperation. We are seeing in our work. Everything is linked like a chain. Trust is achieved through the pursuit of parity, a fair agreement for all parties and transparency through the exchange of information. If one country knows what happened in the other countries, what is the challenges that they are facing, the better it will be able to understand the situation and seek a joint solution. Knowledge of us, it is important to know what are the social aspect in a country, what is the economic aspects, what are the environmental aspects, and a legal condition for each country is very important for understanding the problems faced by both countries. I want to say an example. Legal differences. In terms of regulations, if we talk about water quality, is different between Mexico and the United States. I think in all countries in the world, the norms are different. From water quality, the parameters are different. Water ownership in the United States belongs to the states, but in Mexico, water belongs or is owned by the nation. In Mexico, is a human right established. Water is a human right established in the Constitution. In the United States, it's not. In this sense, all actions to resolve cross-border issues are taken within a diplomatic framework, but with a technical basis. I always say this, all the agreements between two countries must be based in a technical basis, because that if you talk about science, that is a fair discussion, is a fair agreement if it is based on science in technical. How can we address these challenges through water diplomacy? If we talk about water diplomacy as a negotiation and dialogue to achieve sustainable and equitable water management from our experiences, is very important to consider in the following. It is important, very important, to have a structure with all the tools to achieve success. In the case of Mexico and the United States, we have some agreements. We have a treaty that established an organization that has the power to reach agreements to resolve specific problems and present the solutions to the government. It is very important to have the participation of all the stakeholders. A government can decide a political agreement or an agreement from water if it doesn't have the support of the stakeholders. Have the necessary scientific information and data. If the science doesn't exist, if there is not enough information or data, it must be found. Models and a study may be carried out and developed. Establish a follow-up of the cooperation actions, identify the steps to be taken. A win-win solution should always be sought. No party should be addressed affected, and solutions should be equitable and proportional. This is a key issue in order to build confidence and trust for future agreements. I think that is my response to your question. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Resendiz. And a follow-up question, reflecting a little bit on all of your years of treaty work How have you seen women leaders or local knowledge help inform or shift the negotiations in practice?
Thank you. Maybe the biggest win for women is in what is that negotiation happening in a friendly, honest, and transparency way, looking for all the resources and tools to make sure the talks are fair and equitably for everyone. Women don't have tried to get up to get the upper hand in negotiation, to reach balanced agreement that benefit everyone involved. One of the qualities of the woman I have worked with and met in water management is the attention to the details. Woman, it's very, I don't know how to say in English, but is deeper into the details, to organize themselves, to review everything thoroughly, and they are not afraid to share knowledge and ideas. I have also observed the level of scientific knowledge among women. I'm very surprised for the women in science. They are a very key issue. There are many women who are highly qualified to hold leadership position, as an example of that leadership. As I mentioned earlier, in binational negotiation, it is essential to have an understanding between countries in order to comprehend each other's challenges because they are different for each country. This sensibility is easy for women because of their nature, I think. I have had the opportunity to work with women leaders whom I have seen working intensely with different perspectives and approaches to their work, with an ability to listen and with a great flexibility in the decision maker. This skill builds trust on both sides because they make negotiation open, transparent, and the agreement successful. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to share with this woman my experiences in this work.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Resendez. This has your reflections and all your experience, what you're sharing with us is so valuable. I got some of the elements that you said, for example, the importance that diplomacy goes a little bit beyond what is just negotiations and dialogues. You also need a really solid institutional framework, but one that actually includes all stakeholders, right? That is really inclusive. And also we need to have the necessary information and data and solutions that will really be satisfied to have actually every actor that is having a stake at what we're dealing with, in this case, transboundary water. But I really like the what you mentioned on women, right? And this description you gave to women, which somebody would think that is not the normal kind. Women are the bold kind of people that actually are not afraid of sharing their knowledge in a table or sharing all the details, retaining the important information. And this is really important to actually mitigate some of the difference that we encounter normally when we have parties with different positions. So with that, I really want to thank you again, Commissioner Resendez. Thank you for joining us today and sharing with us these valuable insights. So I think we, before turning, we just heard that our second panelist will not be joining us. I requested to see if there is a voice message that we can share, and I did receive one, so I will try to do it. So I will briefly introduce her too. She's not here online, but she sent a voice message. Her name is Ambassador Nadia Gofun from Sudan. She currently serves as the Deputy Commissioner for the National Commission for Human Rights in Sudan. She has been a member of the Charter Committee for Human Rights at the Arab League of Nations for 8 years and has twice served as the body's deputy president. Ambassador Gofun has over 30 years of direct experience in formal water diplomacy process in the Nile Basin on behalf of Sudan. She has played key roles in regional and bilateral water cooperation, including as member of Sudan's official delegation in the GERD negotiation processes. She has also served as the Deputy General Director of International Issues at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Director of the Department of Water, Environment and Natural Resources. She also served as Sudan's ambassadors to many countries like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Malaysia, and was part of the delegation to the United Nations. Ambassador Gofun is a founding member of the Women in Water in the Women Diplomacy Network. So let me just put her voice message here. Unfortunately, she couldn't join on the call, but let's see what her message is for the community.
At the outset, it gives me great pleasure to meet you and reflect today with you in such a dear occasion in my heart, for my heart, which is the 3rd anniversary of the Women in Diplomacy Day. The Women in Water Diplomacy Network, to discuss the strategic value of inclusive decision-making, including and especially related to water-related diplomacy. This network has developed immensely and worked hard to network in a creative manner that gathered water women from every corner of the universe. Every corner of the universe. Because of that, we need to have it needs to have its place in the international society. I call from here to a more recognition for this network efforts towards strengthening peace and security of the world. Because the network originated in the Nile Basin, so I thought maybe I give you a glimpse of what is happening in my country, Sudan, at the banks of the Nile, Great Nile. The Great Nile itself is so sad these days. As you know, the blue and white Nile meets at the confluence in Khartoum and run to the Mediterranean through northern Sudan and Egypt, and then it will from Khartoum to the Mediterranean called the Nile. Khartoum is the confluence point. The Khartoum is emptied from its citizen. A 10 million city has been attacked by the militia and regional and international mercenaries coming from the western side desert from 17 countries. And this war against Sudan, Sudanese army, resulted of 25 millions of people leaving their houses as displaced and refugees. And terrorized by the RSF, which is led by the warlord Hemeti. Definitely, you have heard about this warlord and his mercenaries. They hired mercenaries from all over the world. It's a new type of war. It can happen to anybody. It's a new type of war that mercenaries come, they pay them, and they come and wage war on you. Hundreds were sold, and about 2,000 women, 2,000 women were raped, and some hundreds were sold outside the country. You see, beside that, the refugee and and the displacement, women were sold, and young children also were sold to outside the country. Although Khartoum was liberated lately, but confidence building needs to take place. It will take place, but gradually. But still, the war is going there at the western side of the country. Not only Khartoum, but also a big province which is called Jazeera. Some parts of the western part of Sudan also was attacked. Were attacked. These mercenaries are also seized. They left no electricity equipment in their houses. They took all the gold. They entered the houses, and they took everything. Some people, left their houses. When they come back to their houses, they find nothing. All looted. I myself, who's talking to you now, I left my house 3 years ago. I haven't seen it till now. I live in Khartoum. I used to live in Khartoum. I went to as a refugee in Cairo, and then now I came about 6 months. I came back to my country, but in the administrative capital, which is called Port Sudan, at the Red Sea. Also and in the Red Sea itself, this country which is want to occupy and us every day, shelling us with drones. Yeah. But thank God now we are having our country back, and we are living. I mean, we fought them and they left to the Sahara, but still they are trying to. And the cause of all this is their greed on our resources, on our waters, our resources and our water and our gold. You see, it's not this country which is orchestrating all this, which is the Emirates, is not a poor country. It's a rich country, but this is trying to do this, as a new type of colonialism, because they want our resources, they want our waters. They think that we do not deserve it. In fact, this network has. This is, they have done this with avidity and greed, for greed in our waters and in our resources, and our strategic point at the Red Sea. So they want us all. They want also our ports at the Red Sea. It's a strange way of looking to things. It's unprecedented. I just want to give you this small note to let you know how women of my country, Sudan, deeply suffered lately. I call you to follow and support. Thank you very much. I really wanted to be with you through Zoom, but unfortunately I couldn't, for technical problems. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I think you all heard the message from Ambassador Nadia, and how also water and resources are the heart of some of the worst conflict. But Ambassador, thank you very much for your courage, from your strength. I think your experience touches all of us here today, what we are hearing, the message that you sent. And we have to thank you for the strength that you have, for upholding the human rights that you have fought for all of your life. So thank you very much for sharing that with us today. And with this, I'll switch to Ambika so that she can introduce the next panelist. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to our previous two speakers. I think both of them in their own way highlighted how important leadership at the highest level is, but it's also important then to remember that a bottom-up approach really is required in so many of these cases to achieve in practice then some of these decisions that are taken at the higher levels. And without then that feminist leadership in civil society, sometimes the best of intentions aren't always put into practice in the way I think they were perhaps originally thought of. And so I'm very much excited to introduce our next panelist who brings such extensive experience from peace dialogue and grassroots movement in the South Caucasus. Shehla Ismail from Azerbaijan has been working on gender equality and women's rights for over 25 years. She's the chairwoman of the 22-year-old Women's Association for Rational Development, which I have to confess, before I joined this network, I did not know that this organization existed, and then I looked it up, and there's some amazing things that are within this association. But I also have to just say, as a side note, what an interesting name to have, right? A Women's Association for Rational Development. It's really the basis of so many things and the way we should work. So I was like, this is such a great name. And Shehla has been, she's been an immense driver for women, peace and security in many spaces, both in the region and in Azerbaijan. She's won many, many awards, and I won't list them all out. Her extensive, amazing bio is there in our network, will be put on the chat as well. But I did want to mention that in 2023, she received the National Medal Progress for 25 years of contribution to gender equality in Azerbaijan. And I looked that up, and I thought that was an amazing award as well to have received amongst the many others. So excellent to have you here and share so many of your work with us. I'm going to start you off with a very easy question, but a very important question, I think, given your dialogue work in the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace effort. Wondering if you can speak to the role of women in ongoing regional peace process that I know has had its ups and downs, but very recently at an international conference in Azerbaijan, there was some statements made that talked about taking this effort forward, and how dialogue then on water security might be approached in a meaningful way that integrates women's perspectives within this regional process. Shehla, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening to all the members of and participants of this conference. Thank you very much, Ambika, for this lovely introduction, and thank you to Elizabeth, who invited me to this conference. I really feel pleased and proud to be here and to celebrate this special occasion with all of you today. Well, indeed, I'm representing the civil society for 25 years, and in addition to being just the member of the dialogue platforms, I'm also the coordinator of Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum in Azerbaijan, which brings together 67 organizations across the country. And that gives me the possibility to reflect more extensively on the issues concerning the question and the agenda of today. Well, what I can say, first of all, let me tell you that Azerbaijan and Armenia, to the blessed pleasure of mine, has been closer to peace throughout the 30 decades than ever. Like in the last 3 decades, we are experiencing indeed very many ups and downs, but we are closer to peace than ever in the last 3 decades, and that gives me an excitement to share this news. But unfortunately, we still do not have the peace agreement as such, although the formal process has started, yet there is no peace agreement signed yet. However, both countries have entered into the formal dialogue process as such, and it is ongoing mostly at the track 1 level and track 2 level, sometimes at track 1.5 level, where I'm very much engaged in at the experts community level. And based on all my observations, I can say that honestly, the participation of the women in the post-conflict, because we symbolically call it post-conflict, although it's not completely over, and again, the agreement has not been signed yet, but still we can call this period more as a post-conflict. And out of the 4 pillars of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, I can say that we formally started the process under the 4th pillar, which goes for relief and recovery. And both countries are at the relief and recovery. However, what I can say that our women are mostly underrepresented again at the negotiation table. So we are not practically there, and we are not have never been the part of the formal negotiation process as such. We mostly are overrepresented in humanitarian responses, in dealing with addressing the consequences of the crisis as such, consequences of the conflict as such, but never have been engaged again in those meaningful moments of the participation while planning or implementing or redirecting. That's of course very pity. And when we are talking about the possibilities of role of women in regional peace process and integrating them into the dialogue as such, I can say that not just at the level of border security as such, but generally the women's representation still remains quite drastically underrepresented. Although there is a lot of possibilities as such, like I've been in communication quite often with women, both from Armenian and Azerbaijani border regions, and I see a lot of possibilities for joint water projects. I see a lot of possibilities for piloting, these small actions like, some water projects, which might be a good symbolic start for confidence building measures, for trust building measures. So there are a lot of possibilities, but really little space. What can be done on the side of the civil society and, generally, like they say, from both countries, we also should take into account that the processes which are happening at the background, like political context and civil society context, they are not symmetrical in Armenia and Azerbaijan. For example, the National Action Plan 1325, for example, in Azerbaijan has never been adopted. And I've been one of the persons who have been engaged a lot into the entire process. Like, to be very precise, I've authored 2 formal National Action Plan drafts, 1325, for the government of Azerbaijan, and it included quite a extensive list of actions in all 4 directions. However, we never had been very close to the signature and adoption of NAP 1325. For comparison, Armenia has already started, I guess, the 3rd National Action Plan, or they were very close to starting the 3rd one. And that gives us, of course, the situation when we cannot symmetrically act in these regards. Or if we talk more extensively about the civil society situation, we all know that the civil society organizations and activists and leaders, they have a big potential to contribute to this process of women, peace and security, and including the water security. However, if we again look at the landscape of Azerbaijan and Armenia, we unfortunately see a lot of politicized moments when civil society cannot equally and extensively engage into the actions, standard actions with the civil society normally should be engaged, be that at the level of prevention, be that at the level of participation, protection, or relief and recovery. To be more precise, like the civil society of Azerbaijan is currently undergoing the worst period in its history, recent history, which is manifested through the challenging legislation, which closes up the legitimate space for our registration, operation, and funding. And we are experiencing a lot of challenges with financial viability, with advocacy space, with public image as such. And that, of course, gives us again the unequal possibility for start and for implementation. So these two moments as an illustrative examples would show you that even at these even the moments like the women, peace and security, they are very much affected by this unfavorable environment as such. But there also in this very momentum lies the opportunity in itself, because water security is giving less political momentum. Like it's regarded normally less politically, because we are talking about the risks which are shared by women by all the sides, like the cleaning of irrigation waters, like flood risks, like dying riverbeds. All these moments, they are less political context, like less political, and that gives us the possibility to use the momentum as an entry point to harder, to more political agenda as such. I think that again, if the dialogue is structured, and if track 1, track 2, track 3 is going simultaneously, and if it's somehow it's possible to apply all these tracks in parallel, that there is such a huge potential to engage women meaningfully, not just symbolically, but meaningfully into all these processes, including the normalization and transboundary cooperation.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. That was a great overview, and really great to hear the positive steps that are being taken. I also really like that you're saying that some of these aspects are not regarded as highly political, and so they can be very good entry points, which is not always the case, especially in many other parts of the world. I come from a region where many of these things are seen as highly political, and so they are not seen as entry points. So I feel like any success that you have in this space then will be very, very useful for so many other regions around the world. If I may ask a short follow-up question then to what you had said, and you've talked a little bit already about these potential entry points, but if you could maybe give 1 or 2 examples of something that's already happened or that is perhaps happening now, as to what these entry points actually look like. Is it perhaps a member from one of these 67 organizations that's sitting in on some of these discussions, or is it research where we are using gender inclusive approaches then to inform perhaps some of the peace process? Any example that you have or idea that's ongoing, I think might be very interesting for the group over here.
Thank you very much, Ambika, for the positive feedback. Yes, I can share 2 examples. First of all, as I already mentioned, we have entered and we are actively at the stage of relief and recovery in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. And, these there are a lot of things ongoing. And relief, recovery, rehabilitation, it's all about this RE. RE gives us the opportunity to look again at the things which have not been there before the crisis, before the conflict. So we are reshaping, we are redesigning, we are doing the things which were not in place. And this is a high time for us to rebuild the new social contracts. I think that this gives us an amazing opportunity for stepping into the new phase when women are also part of this new, process, recovery, rehabilitation, rehabilitation, relief, recovery. So all these steps which can be done with the engagement of women, because without engagement, we are creating just the new, blind spots. And of course, it's very, very counterproductive. The second thing, it has already been mentioned by one of the speakers, that's the possibility of those instruments which are already in place. And in Azerbaijan, I already mentioned that NAP 1325 is not in place. There is a perspective for its adoption in the coming future once the peace agreement is signed, for example, but so far we don't have it. Although I should also give here the disclaimer that I fully understand and admit that even the countries with the NAP 1325, they are having plenty of problems. So it does not mean that if we have the NAP adopted as such, it will not be the panacea from all the challenges. It will not bring all the solutions, but at least it will give the possibility for a rigid framework to step onto. But what I can say, well, NAP 1325 indeed is not in place, but there are other things which are in place. And CEDAW as a framework is there. And CEDAW is one of the instruments which is respected and by the government of Azerbaijan, for example, quite extensively. The latest review of Azerbaijan at UN CEDAW Committee happened in 22, and the concluding observations and recommendations, they are having quite an extensive list of recommendations, 85 recommendations in 23 areas of concern. And although there is no mentioning of the water security as such, there are still other sectors, other recommendations which might embrace the water security as such. Among them is the let's say, peace and security in general, or it can be like rule of women, the section on the rule of women, which can bring us closer to those joint pilot water projects, for example. So there are the possibilities to use and utilize these small instruments which are already in place. And although we should definitely strive for bigger actions, we still should not ignore those small possibilities to step onto, because they can actually bring us higher and can give us more legitimate space. And this is also about the legitimacy, because what we will lose in case women are not there, we will definitely lose the legitimacy to be the owners of the process, because currently we can say that more or less we have the situation when peace process is formed by the narrow political elite, and that everything should be done to, to prevent that and to extend the process to bigger range of stakeholders and owners as such.
Fantastic. I mean, I was writing so much as you were speaking as well, and it struck me. I think the one thing I would really like to connect what you said with what was said earlier by our other panelists was this whole idea of reshaping and redesign, right? And what that needs to be to ensure, and I like your statement of ensuring we don't have any new blind spots. Otherwise, we're just going to create cycles that somebody else then has to deal with 30, 40 years down that line. So bold thinking, basically, I think is what is required. And in many cases, women bring that to those spaces. Thank you so much, Shahla Ismail. I think fantastic from you and the rest of all the speakers. I'm sure I know everyone would have liked to ask you. I have already so many follow-up questions for you and everyone else, but always we have very little time for these things. So I'm going to hand it over back to Elizabeth, because I see also that we forgot to take our group photo before this session. So perhaps, Elizabeth, if you want to do it now before we go then to our closing speaker.
Thank you. Wow, I am just blown away by that discussion. Thank you, Shahla. That was a wonderful conclusion to our dialogue, and a special thanks as well to Ambassador Nadia for her efforts to send us through a voicemail just here live. You all saw that live. And Commissioner Resendez brought so much to the discussion as well. Really insightful discussion today. We will just do a quick screenshot. I'm gonna change the view here. And oh, there you go, Fuman. You're allowed back in. And our youngest member of the network is here too. And we will be using this screenshot in the after action report as part of our thank you to you all for joining us today. So if you'd like to have your picture, just turn your camera on, and my colleague Jessie is doing some screenshots for us. It's good to see all of your faces. Jessie, just let us know when we can pack up our smiles. It gets complicated when there are many screens.
Yeah, looks like we are frozen.
Yeah, it looks like we are. Jessie, are we good?
Yes, all good.
Thank you so much. And Ambika, back to you for our final speaker today.
Sorry, I was muted and then started talking. Apologies. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm very pleased to introduce Sara Sofia Siren from Finland, who's a third-time member of the Finnish Parliament, dedicated to advancing equality and sustainable development. She currently chairs the Employment and Equality Committee, in addition to her other parliamentary work. Siren has played a pivotal role in promoting gender equality and human rights through her leadership in various positions of trust, including her tenure as president of the National Council of Women in Finland. Sorry. Her work reflects a strong dedication to building a more equitable society, and I know her many years of experience she'll have some great thoughts for us here today to close us off. I don't see her on my screen, but I think
here. Yep.
she's here. Okay. It's just too many sections. So I will hand it over to you, Siren, and I hope I pronounced your name right, and I apologize if I have not.
Yes, indeed, you did a great job. Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me, if not see me. It's my great pleasure to address you today on behalf of the Finnish OSCE chairpersonship. Like mentioned, I have the honor of being the special representative on gender of the chairperson in office this year. And it has been a truly inspiring journey so far in this role that feels really important and timely.
Oh, there we go.
It's a great opportunity to get to meet and talk with and to so many outstanding women from across the entire world, the OSCE region and beyond, from very diverse walks of life. All of you wonderful women who make a difference in your communities, in your professional environment. And of course, today it feels especially special to speak to you, as it is the Women in Diplomacy Day. I think it's a day worth celebrating because diplomacy, just like politics, which is a field more familiar to myself, it has for a very long time been male-dominated area. So I'm very happy to see all of you women here and this event, which is organized in the framework of women, water management and conflict prevention, for which Finland is a long-standing donor. It reminds me of the days when I used to study. I studied a course in UNU-INWEH in Amman, and the topic was water management in sustainable development, and that course really taught me, or that was the beginning of understanding the importance of water management in sustainable development, and therefore also safety. The Women in Diplomacy Day today, it's an important time to raise awareness of the persisting gender stereotypes many of us women face in diplomacy, in other fields of life. And it preventing many women of working in their full potential. And it's a challenge for our whole societies and development. And therefore, it's so important that we have networks such as the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. It's an excellent initiative. I'm really honored to be talking to you. Of course, everyone participating understands the importance of the topic and its linkage to decision-making processes, cooperation in the field of water management that is vital for inclusive and resilient societies, especially in regions where people face water insecurity. Resilience is a word very important for Finland also as the OSCE chairpersonship this year. Resilient together is the motto of our chairpersonship this year. Of course, there are very strong linkages between climate change, water, peace, and security, all topics that are very timely at these uncertain times as we speak today. And the water and water management can also be a very strong tool that can be used, for example, for peace, very much needed today, unfortunately, during this times. And of course, I work a lot with equality and gender issues in general. So we know that women, young people, people who are in vulnerable positions always suffer the most when it comes to challenges, conflicts, or crisis, or war, be it, for example, safe water or sanitation, which often are lacking during difficult times. I also want to mention regarding peace, since it's on the top of, I believe, many of our minds today. We need to have women on the table, politicians, diplomats, mediators. It's the best way to guarantee that peace will be sustainable and just. And we know that even though women have the knowledge, they have the know-how, they have the critical role in sustainable peace, they are underrepresented in these fields, including water management. In Finland, gender and equality are very strong parts of our values. They are fundamental for our society, and they have played a very big role in the development of our country. And therefore, it's very neutral that we have a strong focus on gender issues in our foreign policy, including our chairpersonship in OSCE. I want to mention that a few weeks back, the chairpersonship of Finland as the chairperson organized an event on women, peace and security in Vienna. It was a very successful conference. Maybe some of you were able to attend. We were expecting about 200 participants, and we had over 400 registered participants gathering together on topics related to women, peace and security. And during the conference, we launched OSCE-wide Women, Peace and Security Roadmap, which is, I could say, a toolbox for countries to have different ways of promoting women, peace and security in their countries. And I see a lot of potential here. Supporting women in water diplomacy network is certainly an excellent example in this field, promoting inclusive leadership and guiding the framework. So I wish the best of luck and all the best in your important work in your various roles. As women, we play a big part, a central core part in management, safeguarding water, and this is also clearly stated in Principle 3 of the Dublin Statement. I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Meetings like the one we are today having promote the central role of women, and networks like this one are essential for building skills, exchanging experiences, and giving support to each other for us to achieve goals that we share. So thank you very much for having me, inviting me, and having the possibility to talk to you in this important and timely topic. And I wish you all the best in your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, Sophia, and really to all of your colleagues in Finland who have been core partners to the network since day one. As we wrap up today, I just want to thank once more all of the partners who join us in co-convening these engagements. Special thanks to each of them for contributing their time and expertise to make these engagements take place. Really warm thank you as well to our facilitators and speakers today and panel discussants. It was so informative. And of course, my biggest thanks really is to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to lean on each other, get to know each other a little bit better. I hope everyone walks away with this from this meeting with an important nugget of knowledge or two that you can take onwards in all of your important works. So we look forward to seeing you next time. And please stay safe and well, everyone. So I'll turn the recording off, but thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.